Welcome to the Holistic Kid Show. My name is Dane.
My name's Zila.
And my name is Imad.
We are the Holistic Kids here to educate and empower us kids from the inside out. Mold, infections, toxins, pesticides. These are things we kids can't see, but actually affect us and lead to chronic disease in kids.
Wait, how does something affect us if we can't even see it?
Well, that is why we have the perfect guest with us today. We actually spoke at the same conference together at AFRAM last year.
And as that today we have with us Dr. Pejman Katiraei, or Dr. K for short, who is a board-certified pediatrician who completed his undergraduate at UCLA and then obtained his osteopathic medical degree at Western University. He completed a pediatric residence at Loma Linda University, where he then stayed on as a teaching faculty for over 4 years. He's completed 2 fellowships in integrative medicine and has over a decade of clinical experience helping children with severe learning and behavioral challenges. Dr. K is now in private practice in Santa Monica, where he focuses on helping children mold-related illnesses, autism, and other mental health challenges. So thank you so much, Dr. K, for joining us today.
Oh, my pleasure. Thanks for having me. Really happy to be here.
So we would love to know how a pediatrician that is conventionally trained is now educating worldwide on these hidden dangers. So we'd love to know your story.
Sure. I say that my patients are my teachers. They're one of my greatest teachers. And I've always been really interested in helping kids because as a kid, I had, quite a fair share of my own challenges. So I really relate and connect with those kids who are really struggling, the kids that are struggling to socialize, the kids who are anxious, the kids who, have all kinds of issues, whether we label them as autistic or anxiety disorder, whatever we call them. So there's a part of me that, for as long as I can remember, been connected to these kids and feel like I need to do what I can to help them. And frankly, it's been my own healing journey because the more I've learned how to help them, the healthier that I've become and the better of a place that I have been in. And, over time, I've trained in everything you can imagine from, just functional medicine and healing the gut to medical herbalism. And I did a fellowship in, at one point I had a big pharmacy in my clinic with like 150 different plants that I was custom blending. And then I got into, different kinds of things, including the biomedical approaches. And what I found is while all of these were helpful, there was something keeping these kids still stuck. And I had a bunch of kids that I would do everything you can imagine, elimination diet, treat their gut, probiotics, whatever, and nothing was helping them. So there was a mom who, this is almost 10 years ago, maybe even a little longer now, who's like, hey, I found this guy, Dr. Neil Nathan. He thinks that, so-and-so, my son has mold. What do you think? I'm like, I don't know what the heck is going on. It's one of those things. I'm like, I don't know what's going on. Sure, maybe this guy knows something. Why not? Right? So we tested him. Didn't look terrible. We still met with Dr. Nathan, who was the mom and I, and we shared with him, the story of this guy who was highly anxious and destructive and aggressive and really suffering, really, really suffering. And at the end of it, he's like, oh, this is mold. I'm like, what are you talking about, sir? Like, there's no mold. The house looks fine. The urine looks good. It's not on their blood test. What are you talking about? He's like, no, there's mold, and sure enough, the mom brought in an inspector and their house was so badly contaminated that literally she just packed up their clothes, left their furniture, left everything, and just hightailed it out of the house because the inspector was like, your house, no one should be living here. And, after that, my jaw kind of hit the ground and I had this moment of holy moly, how horrible is this thing? And how is it that I had no awareness of it? And that started this journey of me training with Dr. Nathan, learning how to test for it, and then learning how to look for it. And then the more I looked for it, the more I found it. And then I slowly started making connections between what this exposure does to kids and how it starts showing up. And I got to a point where it became so common in me looking for it, where I was finding it everywhere to the point where I thought I was going a little crazy. Like it was one of those things where literally I thought I was losing my head because it was so common. And then I checked with Dr. Nathan, who's like, no, it's everywhere. So that's a very long-winded way of saying my patients were the ones that helped me find this.
Oh, that's amazing. And thank you for all the amazing work you've been doing to help kids. So,
Yeah, so when you look at teens today, what hidden health dangers were you like at the most families don't realize? Like, are there anything problem?
What kind of health, like hidden dangers do they have?
so like what hidden dangers do most families not realize because their child looks amazing on the outside, but in reality, their child is dealing with sickness on the inside that their family might not be aware of. So how do you help adults, figure out if their child is dealing with something like that, even if, they look okay?
Well, it's an excellent question. And, I would rephrase it as, are all people as healthy, or kids as healthy as we think they are? And I say that because sadly, I think with where our modern society is, we have lowered the bar over and over and over and over again, to the point where what we think is okay may not be optimal, right? And there are kids or individuals who really are optimal, right? They're kicking butt in school, they can focus easily, they can learn well, they have excellent memory, they have excellent energy, they're sleeping well, they're feeling great, like everything is fantastic. And usually in kids like that, when you check their body, like everything is in a good place. What I oftentimes find is, because of how busy pediatricians are, because of how busy teachers are, because of how busy parents are, a lot of times we let things slip through the crack, right? The kid who is waking up tired in the mornings, dragging themselves through the day, can't really focus, can't really remember, can't really pay attention, but they're not really causing a mess in school, right? They're not acting out. They're getting like B minuses, right? And they can kind of think, but not terrible. So it's not like a disaster is happening. We call that child normal, right? The kids who huff and puff when they try to play sports, the kids who try to, do whatever, but they're not functioning optimally. And right now, sadly, in our medical community, and frankly, in our regular communities, we say, well, all of that is normal, right? And I would argue that normal doesn't mean healthy, and it certainly doesn't mean optimal. And I think one of the things we need to start doing is first changing our mindset and saying, are kids and individuals really living their life optimally? Are they thriving in school to the point where learning is easy, memory is great, they're full of energy, they're happy, they're balanced, they feel good, they don't have digestive issues, right? How many kids do you talk to and they're like, yeah, I'm constipated, but that's normal, right? Oh, I've got allergies, that's normal. I get abdominal pain and headaches, that's normal, right? I can't focus, that's normal. We've come to normalize so many things because sadly, as you guys know, so many kids are not healthy, but we call that unhealthy normal because they're not meeting like a catastrophe medical level diagnosis. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and that's amazing information because so many people and so many parents need to know about this, and that it's just because society normalizes it doesn't mean it's normal.
Yes.
So you talk a lot about mold affecting kids' health. How does that mold affect us? When should we look for it?
Great question. So, it's become a really big focus of mine because I have just seen it make so many kids sick. And there's kind of a pattern that shows up when someone is exposed to mold. First of all, you've got usually more than one person in the family who's just tired, right? They're sleeping X number of hours. Adults are sleeping 7, 8 hours. They wake up still tired. Kids are sleeping 9 hours, 10 hours. They're still tired. They're tired during the day. They wake up tired. They don't have the strength. So it's not just they have energy, but that strength, that high vitality is something that's lacking even when they sleep. A lot of these kids get ear infections, they get sinus infections, they keep getting sick all the time because their immune system gets thrown off by these toxins that are released. The other thing that happens is there's a weird type of brain fog that starts developing, which then affects memory. It affects executive functioning. So executive functioning is, you sit down, you crank out your homework, you're done, boom. Mom doesn't need to nag you, right? You just do it. When these toxins are there, a person's ability to be able to sit down and crank out whatever tasks they need gets affected. Their learning gets affected. So working memory, which has to do with math. So imagine a computer that has like a little memory chip on it, right? And you have to take information into that thing, and then it converts the information into something else and puts it into storage. That memory chip, if it gets glitchy, is the same thing as working memory. And that causes kids to have difficulty with math. Along with this, usually it really disrupts the gut, because if you think about where antibiotics came from, right? Penicillin came from a mold. Most of our antibiotics are actually derived from mold toxins. So when we're in these environments breathing in these toxins, what we're actually doing is essentially breathing in antibiotics with each breath. Imagine if each breath you get a little dose of antibiotics, and over time, these antibiotics start messing with your gut. So now you've got digestive issues, either constipation or loose, funky bowel movements, abdominal pain. And then as time passes, these toxins start causing a lot of inflammation in the brain, which then causes weird anxiety disorders, weird states of depression, anger, aggression. It causes if you could imagine someone's brain catching on fire and what that would feel like, and how that would cause you to feel and behave in the world, that is essentially what these toxins do. And that's sadly just the tip of the iceberg.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's just so crazy about mold. Like, you wouldn't expect mold to affect you that much. So, is mold alive like a plant or an animal? Because, what even is mold? I just know it's like something gross. So,
yeah, they're fungi, right? So it's like, imagine having a bunch of fungus growing in the inside of the walls. But the problem is, and this is where it gets it gets simplified a little too much. When there's an issue with moisture, so it could be a leak, it could be a pipe leak, it could be a roof leak, it could be a window leak, but also in certain parts of the world and the US, let's say someone had a flood. Let's say you're living in Florida and humidity is 100%, and all of that humidity gets trapped in an area that starts producing moisture. And one of the not so smart things that we did about 50 years ago is we started putting paper, AKA drywall, in all of our homes. When you make paper get wet, guess what happens? You get mold. So in all of our homes, we have all this paper that's just sitting there. You add water to it, and you get all of this fungus, mold growing, but also a bunch of bacteria that start growing. And that combination of molds plus bacteria produce these weird toxins. I was writing about it, and imagine you've got a chain smoker in your walls, right? They're just all of these little chain smokers. They're puffing cigars, except the smoke that they're releasing into the room is not cigarette smoke. It's actually toxic smoke that some people, that the US especially, has used historically for biological warfare. So if you can imagine those gases that are being released by these tiny little microbes that are like puffing on cigars, releasing these gases, and those gases that we inhale end up making us sick and causing all kinds of really strange things.
Wow. So that is like crazy.
Okay. Do you know how can people know if they're being affected by mold, and how can we protect ourselves from mold? Because it seems like, oh, if mold is happening, then oh, what can I even do about it? So what would you say to that?
So, every one of the things that people say all the time is like, well, everyone has mold. Like all homes have mold. And when I hear that, like there's a part of me that gets a little sad and also a little frustrated because it's a miscommunication that has happened, sadly from some people that have good intentions but don't really understand. Yes, all homes have mold because you open a window, mold comes from the outside. All homes do not have toxic molds that make us sick. And how do you know if you're being exposed? It really boils down to, is everyone in your family healthy, right? If everyone is feeling great, doing well, kids are great, they're happy, no one's getting, I mean, everyone gets sick, right? But when we normally get sick, it's like, oh, I got the flu. For 2 or 3 days, I had some fevers. I felt kind of cruddy, and then you can move on, right?
Mhm.
Mhm.
There's a different pattern that shows up when especially kids are exposed. And first, it shows up as usually a kid who has chronic allergies. Not like, oh, there's a little pollen outside. I had allergies for a week. I took some Zyrtec. It got better. This is, I'm always congested. I'm constantly clearing my throat. I got an ear infection, but then a month later, I get another ear infection. I just got croup, and then I had a sinus problem. So all of this weird respiratory stuff that never goes away. And that's all the toxins causing inflammation in our sinuses and in our airways. It can also trigger weird patterns of asthma. But beyond that, the other thing is, how's your energy, right? If your body is not toxic, your energy should be really good, especially if you're also eating pretty well. But these toxins, because they disrupt the mitochondria, cause our energy to tank out. So you've got someone that wants to do sports, but they're too tired. They want to do whatever things, they're too tired. It affects the brain, as we kind of talked about. So brain fog, can't think, you're anxious, you're irritable. Some kids start looking like they have autism because their brain is having so much inflammation that they're so overwhelmed in the world. And along with this, you get weird aches and pains, you get digestive issues. So there's a pattern that starts showing up. And if that pattern starts appearing in a family, and the family's like, what is going on with my kid? Or what is going on with us? Right? That's when people need to start standing back and say, well, something is there. What is causing us to get sick? And that's when we start looking into it.
Wow. So does mold grow on food? And like you're like, if I eat that, like I really don't want to eat mold. And can like mold, if you do eat mold, and if it goes on food, like can it cause issues?
Uh, so our intestines are designed to handle a certain amount of mold. Would you want to eat moldy food every day? Probably not, right? That's probably not such a good idea. Would eating, one bite of a moldy food once make you really sick? Probably not, because our intestines can handle that. Yes, mold does grow on food. Mold grows outside, and our bodies have learned to handle that. What our bodies now, especially with all the toxins that we're exposed to, right? Everyone's sadly exposed to some level of glyphosates. And thank goodness for the work that you guys are doing, right? You're helping kids learn how to be healthier, which makes our bodies stronger, which then allows it to handle all these other toxins. But most kids, most individuals are not yet learning from you guys how to eat healthy to be strong, right? So a lot of kids already have weaknesses in their body. And then when you add the toxins from inside the home on top of that, that's when you get a really big mess.
Oh,
So, so yeah, for everybody that's listening, just to make sure you can check to see if there's anything unusual with your health, or you have respiratory issues that are just there for months upon months, and you've done everything. Definitely try to look for mold, because I know a lot of our friends and people that we know, they thought they were so confused about why they were getting sick until they realized that they had mold in their house.
mhm.
So definitely get that checked and make sure to look in places that may be more wet and more moist. You have a book coming out soon, and you mentioned you work with autism a lot. Does mold and autism, are they connected?
I think so. I mean, thank you for mentioning this. The book that I'm writing is specifically on how exposure to these toxins, especially to little babies, but also sometimes to older kids, basically triggers a weird cascade of events, multiple different things in the mitochondria, in the intestinal tract, in multiple systems, the immune system, the nervous system, and that collectively causes essentially a change in how the brain can function and the wiring of the brain, which then causes what I have seen, countless times. Like this is my entire practice, what we call autism. And a lot of times when you ask, well, what causes a child to behave that way, right? Because there are plenty of kids, I'm sure you've met some, where they can look at you, they can talk to you, but they've got other things that limit them from socializing. They get anxious, they get nervous, they get overwhelmed, right? And we label all of this stuff as autism. And then you've got those sweet, dear, amazing children that just can't talk. They get overwhelmed even more. And all of that, in my experience, not to say it's all of it, but a large percentage of it, a percentage that we don't know, may actually be due to this exposure. And, time and time again over the last 10 years now, this has been what I've been helping families and children. And it really breaks my heart because there are kids who are living in these homes that are making them sick, and they are acting in all kinds of ways that they have no control over. And we medicate them, right? We do all of these things to them, and we miss the very thing that made them sick in the first place simply because we don't want to talk about it. And a lot of doctors, a lot of scientists, a lot of people say, well, this can't be, right? And without even being open to considering it, without even being willing to look at it, it gets dismissed, which actually causes a lot of kids to suffer. And that's really the notion behind this book, to help bring a lot of awareness and help a lot of families see why their kids are struggling.
So yeah, definitely go check out Dr. K's new book. It's probably gonna be a must to read.
So yeah, but if we suspect mold, where do we start to find mold and treat it?
Great question. The easiest and first place is to test your home. There's a test called the dust test, literally the dust test. There's another company called EnviroBioMix, and they have an ERMI, which is basically the same thing as a dust test. And these are basically self tests you can do at home. That it comes with a little Swifter pad, and you just basically leave your home alone for a week. Don't clean it, don't dust it, don't do any of that. And then you take this pad and just gather dust from all of the places. And you send it to the lab. And what they do is, it's actually pretty cool. They run a DNA probe on the dust. And with that, they're looking to see if there's weird fragments of molds that don't belong in a clean house. And with that, then they can tell you, like, hey, there's a chance that there's something weird going on in your home. And that's when then people need to find an inspector and have someone come and officially check the home. For families whose kids are not doing well, they're really sick, and they want to find out if the child has had exposure, there's blood testing you can do through any doctor that can actually check to see if the child's immune system has basically been irritated by mold. And one of the best companies out there, and I have no financial affiliation with any of these people or companies, is called My Myco Lab. And it's a $400 test, so it's a little pricey. But what it does is it basically looks to see if you or your child's body has ever encountered toxic mold. And if you test and like your immune reactions are off the charts, it doesn't tell you where it happened. It doesn't tell you when it happened. It just tells you it's happened. But at least now you know, like, oh my God, like mold or these toxins may be why my kid is getting sick. where is it coming from, what has happened, and then from there people can look to find, others like me to help their kids get better.
Perfect.
Yeah, so what is one thing kids can do to protect themselves from mold like today?
I think that the most important thing kids can do to protect themselves is to listen to what you guys are talking about. Healthy eating, healthy living, taking care of your bodies. That is the number one way you can strengthen your body, right? The stronger your gut is, the stronger your microbiome is, the healthier your various systems are, the more resilient your body is to this exposure. And through healthy vegetables, all of that fiber, all of that is helping our intestines detoxify, right? This is stuff you guys talk about all the time. It all of this is super, super helpful. So if there's one thing kids can do on top of just being aware, right? Being aware of what this could be doing to them, and parents too. The other thing is just really try to take care of your body, because it will pay off in the end.
So yeah, to everyone watching, make sure definitely to check out Dr. K's book. Also, if you see mold, try to get rid of it as soon as possible. I know that's what our mom has been doing with us. If she sees mold, she's trying to get rid of it as soon as possible. So also simple, easy things to do. And so thank you so much, Dr. K. We know how incredibly busy you are, so we're so thankful to you.
Oh, my pleasure. My pleasure. And well, two things I want to add. One, the book is probably coming out sometime in 2027. So it's a little bit away. We're in the process of, I'm in the process of writing it and getting it to the publisher for it to come out. One of the things that I want to end with is how much of an incredible healing becomes possible when we start looking at problems from a different angle. Right. If you look at like engineers, right? Engineers believe there's always a solution to a problem, right? It's never like, oh, this problem doesn't have a solution. It's like, okay, we just need to find a different way of understanding this problem to find a solution. And I believe if we apply that same mentality to some of the challenges that we have, and that's what I try to do in my practice, we can create incredible healings that are currently thought to be impossible. And I'll give you an example. There was this beautiful little boy that I saw literally just yesterday. When I met him about 2 years ago, he was the typical, what you would consider severely autistic child, right? Disconnected, irritable, just anxious, getting overwhelmed, constantly freaking out, so forth. They found some mold. We took care of it. We've been working to detoxify. The family came in today, and not only is he talking, not only is he happy in school, having a blast, going on play dates, being asked to go on play dates. This kid a year ago only drank formula because his body was so inflamed and everything was just so overwhelming to him. Literally, he couldn't eat any foods, maybe some French fries, if the parents were lucky, but like literally he was drinking formula all day because that's all he could drink. Just the other week, his dad cooked some steak and he ate steak for the first time. And then they went to a restaurant and he asked to have a cheeseburger. The same kid that was basically bolting out of schools, parents couldn't take him anywhere. Like they would have to hold him because he would run into the middle of the street, looked at his dad, said, "Dad, can you hold my hand so we can cross the street?" Like things that you would like think are impossible, right? Because, well, these children who have severe autism, they have so much, we say brain damage, right? Which is so awful to think about, that like we write them off, right? We write them off and say, well, there's no chance these kids can do any better. And part of, I think, why this conversation is so important and why I'm so driven to talk about this, and frankly, why I'm spending the time to write this book, is the transformations that I see where the kids who are so sick, who are so struggling, who are suffering in ways that sometimes are unimaginable, transform before your very eyes into these human beings that are happy, they're healthy, they're thriving, and they're capable of doing things that no one ever thought possible. And that just boils down to, if we just get rid of the things that are holding these incredible kids back, right? Holding them back from learning, holding them back from shining and feeling happy, holding them back from just physically being healthy. It's almost like the person goes through a metamorphosis, and then this new human being shows up that's capable of doing all of these things that no one ever thought was possible. So I want to just, share that and end with the main reason why we're having this discussion is because there's so much good we can do, and there's so many people we can help. And that just starts with, us having these conversations to bring awareness.
You're so empowering, and there really is so much hope.
And that was such a inspiring, motivational story that could really help us understand that everything is healable. There's no disease, there's no illness that someone is stuck with their entire life. They can be healed.
Yeah,
especially and sometimes even with the ones that are more challenging to heal, we can make it better. And that's what our mom always says, to at least make it a little bit better through lifestyle, and that's really the best that anybody can ask for.
Yeah, most people are like, oh, I have this disease, now it's for my life, and they just stick with it, and that's not true. You can heal from really almost anything. I think so.
Yeah.
No, you're right. You're right. And if we take on that mindset of anything is possible, certain things we don't have the answer to yet, but anything is possible. And just because we don't have an answer now doesn't mean we can't find that answer, right? And if we just take on that mindset of we can heal this, it's just, do we have the answers yet? And if we don't, where are they, right? How do we find them?
So, wow, this was amazing. So now we need to know how you can, how can kids and parents support you and find you?
I appreciate you asking. One of the easiest ways is to find me on Instagram. So my Instagram is Holistic Kids. I have a Substack. So if people just type in my name, Pejman Katiraei Substack, I have a bunch of different articles written there. And if they ever want to look up my clinic, that's also Holistic Kids with the W's, WHOLISTIC kids.com. And that's where we in person try to help people.
So definitely go check that out. Holistic
Kids
Kids with the W at the beginning.
Yeah, we're the Holistic Kids without the W.
So now to recap Dr. K's key points. Kids are healthy as they think that they are, but we've lowered the bar over and over and over again, and normal doesn't mean healthy or optimal.
Hidden dangers like mold can affect us more than we think. If you think mold can be an issue, most people in your household can be sick, like chronic allergies. Also, congested, always clearing the throat. It can lead to the brain symptoms and even autism, weird aches and pains. If that pattern starts to occur in the family, it could be mold.
So look for mold for families with kids who are not doing well. There are lab tests that can help.
Be aware of what is going on around you. Transformation is possible. Anything is possible. Mindset is key.
And taking care of your body can help it to be resilient and detoxify. So thank you everyone for tuning in. Until next time, I'm Zain Sari.
I'm Abdullah.
And I'm Imad.
Follow my family and I on social media, Holistic Momdy and the Holistic Kid Show on Instagram. And look out for our new best-selling book, The Teen Health Revolution. Kids need to learn from other kids. Please download our podcast on iTunes and leave a review so other kids and families can benefit. We need to create a healthy future for all of us and the planet. Join us next week for another episode of the Holistic Kid Show, where kids are empowering kids.
Thank you, everyone.